I finally held the Innovator of the Year award after a decade of chasing my parents' approval. But the 2 empty chairs at my VIP table that night set a chain of events into motion that would eventually cost them their home. For 10 years, I'd been chasing a dream my parents called a hobby. A decade of ramen noodles, of working 3 jobs, of telling my friends I couldn't come out because I had a deadline for a project that paid next to nothing. It was all for this one night, the culmination of everything. I was holding the Innovator of the Year award, a cold, heavy statuette in my hands, looking out at a sea of the most influential faces in my industry. And all I could see were 2 empty chairs. Right at the front, my table, the VIP table, the one I'd meticulously planned for months. It was a round table for 10, draped in sapphire blue linen, with a towering floral centerpiece. My closest friends were there, my business partner, and the 2 people who had changed my life, my mentors. But the 2 most important seats, the ones directly to my right and left, remained glaringly, painfully vacant. They had little place cards on them, written in elegant calligraphy, Mom and Dad. You have to understand, this wasn't just a party. This was a statement. I'd won the biggest award in my field, a recognition that came with a significant cash prize. And instead of investing it or buying a house, I poured $30,000 of it into this single evening. Why? For them. To finally, once and for all, prove them wrong. To show them that their daughter, the one who didn't go to law school like her perfect older brother Liam, had actually made something of herself. My whole life had been lived in Liam's shadow. He was the doctor, the one with the stable career, the big house, and the 2.5 kids. I was the artsy one, the drifter who was still figuring things out well into my late 20s. Every family dinner was an interrogation. So, are you making any real money with that computer thing you do? My dad would ask, while my mom would sigh and say, Liam just got a promotion. We're so proud. They never understood my work in user experience design. They just knew it wasn't a real job like a doctor or a lawyer. So when I won the award, I thought this was it. This was the moment the script would flip. I called them, my voice shaking with excitement. Mom, Dad, I won. I won the Innovator of the Year award. There was a pause on the line. My dad cleared his throat. Oh, that's nice, honey. Is there prize money? That was his first question. Not congratulations, not we're so proud. Still, I pushed on, determined to manufacture the moment of parental pride I'd always craved. I told them I was hosting a gala in their honor. I'm flying you both out first class, I said, my voice bright and hopeful. I've booked you a suite at the Four Seasons. I'm having a custom gown made for you, Mom. Dad, I've got a tailor ready for a new tux. I want you there, right beside me. Their responses were lukewarm at best. Oh, that's a lot of fuss, sweetie, my mom said. You shouldn't spend your money on us. But I insisted. I sent them the links to the airline tickets. I booked their appointments. I forwarded the hotel confirmation. I talked to them every week, counting down the days. Their enthusiasm never really materialized, but they never said they weren't coming. They just gave vague affirmations. We'll see. And okay, honey. I interpreted their lack of excitement as them just not understanding the scale of it all. I thought, once they get here, once they see the ballroom and the people and see me on that stage, then they'll get it. Then they'll be proud. The day of the gala, I was a wreck of nerves and excitement. I had my hair and makeup professionally done, and I slipped into a designer dress that cost more than my first car. I sent them a text that morning. Plane lands at 3 p.m. A car will be waiting for you at the terminal. Can't wait to see you tonight. Love you. I got a single-word reply from my mom hours later. Okay, that should have been a red flag, but I was too caught up in the whirlwind. The event started at 7 p.m. I arrived at 6:30 to make sure everything was perfect. The band was playing soft jazz, champagne glasses were clinking, and the low hum of conversation filled the grand ballroom. My friends and colleagues started to arrive, congratulating me, hugging me. but my eyes were glued to the entrance. 7i came and went, then 7:15. My business partner, Chloe, touched my arm. "Hey, are you okay? You look pale." "My parents," I whispered, my throat suddenly tight. "They should be here by now." I pulled out my phone and called my mom's cell. It went straight to voicemail. "Hi, Mom. It's me. The gala is starting. Are you guys okay? Are you stuck in traffic? Call me back." I called my dad. Straight to voicemail. A cold dread began to seep into my bones, chilling me despite the warmth of the crowded room. I sent a frantic text to their group chat. "Where are you? Is everything okay? Please answer me." No response. The green bubble of my message just sat there, mockingly undelivered. The event coordinator came over, clipboard in hand. "We need to start the main presentation in 5 minutes. Are we waiting for anyone else at the head table?" I looked at the 2 empty seats, the perfectly folded napkins, the gleaming silverware waiting for hands that weren't coming. My heart was pounding in my ears. Maybe there was an accident. Maybe their flight was delayed. I frantically checked the flight status online. Landed. On time. At 3:02 p.m. My hands were shaking as I scrolled through my phone, desperate for any information. I even checked my brother Liam's social media, a last-ditch effort, and that's when I saw it. A picture he had posted just 30 minutes ago. It was a selfie taken in his familiar backyard. Behind him, my dad was at the grill flipping burgers. And my mom was sitting at their patio table laughing, holding up a glass of wine. The caption read, "Nothing better than a surprise Friday night cookout with the parents." The screen of my phone felt like a portal to another universe. A universe where I didn't exist. My mother, in her comfortable gardening clothes, was throwing her head back in laughter, a carefree, genuine laugh I hadn't heard directed at me in years. My dad, wearing his ridiculous kiss the cook apron, looked content, relaxed. They were 1,000 miles away, not in a luxury hotel suite preparing to celebrate their daughter, but in my brother's backyard, living a life that had absolutely no room for me or my achievements. They hadn't just forgotten. They hadn't been in an accident. They had made a choice. They chose him. They chose a Friday night cookout over a $30,000 gala thrown in their honor. For a moment, I couldn't breathe. The jazz music, the clinking glasses, the polite laughter of the room all warped into a discordant, muffled roar in my ears. The air was thick, heavy. I felt the stares of people at nearby tables. They weren't malicious, just curious. They could see the 2 gaping holes at the head table, a black hole of parental absence that was sucking all the joy out of the room. My triumph was turning into a public humiliation, and the architects of it were grilling burgers, completely oblivious, or worse, completely indifferent. Chloe squeezed my arm again, her brow furrowed with genuine concern. "What is it? What happened?" I couldn't form words. I just shoved the phone into her hand. Her eyes widened as she looked at the picture, her jaw tightening. "Oh my God," she breathed. "No, they didn't." But they did. The smiling faces on the screen were proof. A cold fury, sharp and clean, began to slice through the thick fog of my grief. This wasn't a misunderstanding. This was a message, delivered with brutal efficiency. My career, my success, this entire night, it was all still just a hobby to them, an inconvenience not even worth a plane ride. My brother's impromptu cookout took precedence. My thumb hovered over Liam's contact. I had to know. I had to hear the lie from his own mouth. I excused myself, stumbling toward a quiet hallway just outside the ballroom, my stilettos sinking into the plush carpet like I was walking through mud. I hit dial. He answered on the second ring, his voice obnoxiously cheerful. "Hey, sis, to what do I owe the honor? Shouldn't you be schmoozing with rich people right now?" "Where are they, Liam?" I asked, my voice dangerously calm. "Who?" "Oh, Mom and Dad, they're right here. Dad's burning the hot dogs, as usual." I could hear my mom laughing in the background again. The sound was like acid in my veins. "Why are they there?" I whispered, my knuckles white as I gripped my phone. "They were supposed to be here, with me." He sighed. a long, patronizing sound. "Look, don't get all dramatic. They were just stressed out about the whole thing. The flight, the fancy party. It's not really their scene, you know? They didn't want to embarrass you." Embarrass me? The lie was so audacious, so insulting, it almost took my breath away. Embarrass me? Liam, I spent $30,000. I booked them first-class tickets. I had a custom gown made for Mom. They told me they were coming. "Yeah, well, they didn't want to hurt your feelings," he said, his tone dripping with condescension. "Honestly, they were worried you were just showing off, spending all that money. They thought it was a bit desperate. They figured a quiet night at home was better for everyone." Desperate. The word hit me like a physical blow. That's what they saw. Not a celebration of a decade of hard work, but a desperate cry for attention. And my brother was the one chosen to deliver the final killing blow. I could hear the smirk in his voice. He was enjoying this. This was just another point for his team in the lifelong competition I never even knew we were playing. I hung up. I didn't say goodbye. I stood in that empty hallway, the ornate wallpaper seeming to mock me, and I took one deep, shuddering breath. The grief was still there, a hot stone in my chest. But the anger was a wildfire now, burning away the tears, hardening into something new. Resolve. I had two choices. I could let them ruin this night. Let their absence be the main character in my story of success. Or I could take back the narrative. I walked back into the ballroom, my posture straighter, my head held high. I scanned the room, past the curious faces, and my eyes landed on a table near the back. Dr. Anya Sharma, my former professor who saw a spark in me and pushed me to apply for my first big internship, and Mr. David Chen, my first boss, who mentored me for 5 years, teaching me everything he knew, even after I left his company to start my own. They were the ones who answered my panicked calls at midnight when a project failed. They were the ones who wrote glowing recommendations that opened doors my parents never could. They were the parents of my career. My path was clear. I walked directly to their table, ignoring the whispers that followed me. They both looked up, their expressions a mixture of concern and pride. I smiled, a real smile this time. "Dr. Sharma, Mr. Chen," I said, my voice clear and steady. "It seems my guests of honor have been unavoidably detained by a prior engagement with some hamburgers. There are 2 empty seats at my table, and I can't think of anyone in the world who deserves them more than you two." Their eyes widened in surprise. Before they could protest, I plucked the pristine, calligraphed place cards that read "Mom" and "Dad" from the head table. I held them in my palm for a second, the weight of a lifetime of disappointment contained in 2 small pieces of cardstock. Then, deliberately, I ripped them in half, letting the pieces fall to the floor. As I turned to lead my mentors to their new seats, my purse buzzed. I glanced at the screen. It was a text from my mother. It read, "Hi, sweetie. Liam told us you called. Hope your little party is going well. We are so proud of your brother's promotion." The text message was a masterclass in psychological warfare. Your little party. 2 words designed to diminish everything I had accomplished, to shrink my monumental night down to a child's tea party. And the whiplash of ending it with praise for Liam's promotion? It was breathtaking in its cruelty. It wasn't just a slight, it was a deliberate, calculated act of erasure. My moment, my victory, had been hijacked and handed over to my brother, who wasn't even in the room. For a split second, I felt the familiar sting. The little girl inside me, the one who just wanted her mommy and daddy to say good job, wanted to crumble. But looking at the phone, at the callous words glowing on the screen, something inside me finally snapped. It wasn't a loud, dramatic break, but a quiet, clean severance. The cord of hope I'd been clutching for 30 years, the one that tethered me to their approval, just dissolved. I slipped my phone back into my purse without replying, turned my back on the ghost of their text message, and focused on the 2 people standing in front of me. Dr. Sharma and Mr. Chen were looking at me with a profound understanding that my own parents had never been capable of. They didn't need an explanation. They had seen my struggle up close. They knew the years of work that had led to this night. "We would be honored," Dr. Sharma said, her voice warm as she placed a gentle hand on my arm. "Mr. Chen simply nodded, his eyes crinkling at the corners in a smile that conveyed more pride than I'd ever received from my own father. As they followed me to the head table, a hush fell over the room. People had seen the drama unfold, the empty chairs, my frantic phone calls, my march to the back of the room. Now they were watching this. They saw me lead two of the most respected figures in our industry to the seats of honor. They saw me personally pour them champagne. They saw me lean in and share a quiet laugh with them. I wasn't the humiliated daughter anymore. I was a gracious host, honoring the people who had truly shaped my success. I had taken their power play and turned it into a tribute to my real family, the family I had chosen, and who had chosen me back. The rest of the evening was a blur of genuine joy. Once I let go of the need for my parents' approval, a massive weight lifted off my shoulders. I was free. I laughed with my friends. I danced with Chloe. I networked with colleagues I'd admired for years. When it was my turn to give the acceptance speech, I walked up to the podium with a confidence I'd never felt before. I started by thanking the awards committee and my amazing team. Then I paused, looking out over the crowd, my eyes finding Dr. Sharma and Mr. Chen at my table. "There are two people here tonight who I need to thank personally," I began, my voice clear and strong. "They're sitting in seats that were originally meant for my parents." A quiet gasp rippled through the audience. I let the statement hang in the air for a moment. "My parents couldn't make it tonight," I continued, my tone even, devoid of bitterness. "And in their absence, it has given me a moment of profound clarity. We often talk about the families we're born into, but as we grow, we also have the incredible opportunity to build our own. The family that sees us, that lifts us up, that shows up not just when it's easy, but when it's hard. The people who water our dreams instead of telling us we've planted them in the wrong soil." I raised my award. "This isn't just for me. This is for Dr. Anya Sharma, who told a terrified college sophomore that her ideas were not just valid, but brilliant. And this is for David Chen, who took a chance on a young designer and taught her that failure is just a rough draft of success. You are my professional parents. You showed up. Thank you for everything." The room erupted in applause. It was thunderous, a genuine ovation that felt like a wave of validation washing over me. People were on their feet. I saw tears in Dr. Sharma's eyes. Mr. Chen was beaming, clapping so hard his hands were probably sore. In that moment, surrounded by the warmth and respect of my peers, I felt more loved and seen than I ever had at my family's holiday dinner table. After the gala, my true family, my friends, Chloe, and my mentors, all went to a speakeasy to celebrate properly. We drank vintage cocktails and shared stories until the early hours of the morning. My phone buzzed in my purse a few times, but I ignored it. I didn't care what they had to say. Their opinion no longer had any power over me. It was nearly 3 a.m. when I finally got back to my apartment. Kicking off my heels, I felt a deep sense of peace. I had survived their ultimate rejection and come out stronger on the other side. As I was getting ready for bed, I finally glanced at my phone. There were 3 missed calls from my mother and a string of texts. The last one made my blood run cold. "You need to call me now. This is about the house. Your father and I have made a decision." The house? They were referring to my grandmother's house, the one she'd left to me in her will. My parents had been living in it rent-free for the past 5 years as caretakers, with the understanding that it would be mine once they retired. My grandmother, my mother's own mother, had always been my champion. She was the one who bought me my first computer. Leaving me the house was her way of ensuring I always had a safety net. What decision could they possibly have made? My heart started hammering against my ribs. I had a sickening feeling that the war wasn't over. They had just launched a new, devastating offensive. That text message, with its demanding, ominous tone, was a bucket of ice water after the warmth of the evening. The house, my grandmother's house. It was the one tangible piece of my life they still had a hold over. It was more than just bricks and mortar. It was my inheritance, my safety net, and the last physical connection I had to the one family member who had always, unequivocally, been in my corner. And they were holding it hostage. Sleep was impossible. I spent the rest of the night pacing my apartment, my mind racing. I knew them. This was a power play, a punishment for my public display of independence at the gala. They had been embarrassed, not by their own absence, but by my refusal to be broken by it. My speech, which had felt so liberating, had likely been seen as an act of ultimate betrayal. They couldn't control my career anymore, so they were going after the one thing they could. The next morning, armed with coffee and a cold sense of dread, I called my lawyer before I even considered calling them. I explained the situation, the will, the verbal caretaker agreement, and their sudden threatening text. My lawyer, a sharp woman named Ms. Albright, listened patiently. "The will is ironclad," she assured me. "Your grandmother left the house to you and only you. They are, legally speaking, tenants in your property. They have no right to make any decisions about it." Her words were a small comfort, but I knew my parents didn't operate in the world of legalities. They operated in the world of emotional manipulation. Finally, I steeled myself and dialed my mother's number. She answered immediately, her voice dripping with a sickly, sweet venom. "Well, look who finally decided to call back. I suppose you're done celebrating yourself now." "What's the decision about the house, Mom?" I asked, cutting straight through the guilt trip. She sniffed. "Well, your father and I have been talking. After your little performance last night, making a public spectacle of our family, we've realized we can't possibly live under the roof of someone so ungrateful. And frankly, this house is too big for us. Your brother, on the other hand, Liam and his wife are looking for a bigger place for the kids. He's always loved this house." The audacity was staggering. "You can't be serious," I said, my voice dangerously low. "Grandma left the house to me. She would want what's best for the family." My mother snapped, her voice rising. "Liam has children. He needs the stability. You have all that. Prize money from your little award. You can buy your own place. We've decided to sell the house to Liam for a nominal fee, just to make it legal. It's for the best." That was it. The final move in their long game, to not just deny me my inheritance, but to literally give it to their golden child. The rage that had been simmering in me for years finally boiled over. But it wasn't a screaming, messy rage. It was ice cold and diamond hard. "No," I said calmly. "What do you mean, no?" she sputtered. "We've already told him. The papers are being drawn up." "I mean, no," I repeated, my voice like steel. "The house is not for sale because it is mine. You will not be selling it to Liam, not for a nominal fee, not for $1 million. In fact, Miss Albright, my lawyer, will be in touch shortly with a formal eviction notice. You have 60 days to vacate my property." The silence on the other end of the line was the most satisfying sound I had ever heard. I could practically hear the gears in her mind grinding to a halt, unable to process this new reality where I was no longer a doormat. "Eviction," she finally whispered, the word laced with disbelief and fury. "You would throw your own parents out onto the street?" "You chose your street when you decided to have a barbecue instead of showing up for me," I said, the words coming out with startling ease. "You chose it again when you decided to give my inheritance to my brother to punish me. This isn't me throwing you out. This is me finally closing a door you too have been holding open just to let the cold in. Goodbye, Mom." I hung up before she could respond. The aftermath was exactly what I expected. A storm of frantic calls from my parents, manipulative texts from Liam calling me a monster, and even a few flying monkey calls from distant relatives who had only heard my parents' twisted version of the story. I blocked them all. I let Ms. Albright handle the legal side, and she was a shark. My parents, faced with the undeniable reality of the law, had no choice but to comply. 2 months later, I flew back to my hometown. The house was empty. They'd taken their furniture, but they'd also left behind a trail of petty damages scratches on the hardwood floors, a hole in one wall. It was a final, childish act of defiance. But as I walked through the silent rooms, I didn't feel anger. I felt potential. This was a blank canvas. I spent the next year and a significant portion of my award money renovating my grandmother's house. I knocked down walls, let in the light, and filled it with things that brought me joy. I turned one of the spare bedrooms into a beautiful home office, overlooking the garden my grandmother had loved so much. I hosted parties there, filling the space with my chosen family, with laughter, good food, and genuine affection. One afternoon, while I was working in my office, a package arrived. It was from Dr. Sharma. Inside was a framed photo of me, her, and Mr. Chen from the night of the gala, all of us beaming at the head table. Tucked into the frame was a small note. It read, "Home is not where you are from, it is where you are celebrated. So glad you've finally come home." And for the first time in my life, I truly felt that I had.